Welcome back to Rising Leaders Story from the Legacy of Young Athena. This is episode 7. It is February, which means it's Black History Month, the time to celebrate all the amazing contributions that Black people have made and time to honor them for the incredible, authentic human beings that they are. We are excited to have an amazing guest with us today, someone whose big heart and drive makes a difference that's truly inspiring. So Aaryanna is a Grand Canyon University alum graduating in April of 2024. I can't believe it's been almost a year. with a Bachelor's of Science in Business Management and 2 minors, Marketing and Psychology. At JCU, she served as the chapter president for the National Society of Collegiate Scholars, director of Integrity, Faith, and Character Task Force within the RISE Fellowship, and was also a part of the 2022, that seems like eons ago, Young Athena program. You also worked as a program intern for the Honors College, where you further developed your skills as a program coordinator and program management. Right? That's exciting.
Yes.
So, and then fast forward to May of 24, so didn't even skip a beat. Graduate in April, jumping into a job in May. That's so exciting. So Aaryanna, you joined the National Association of State Contractors Licensing Agencies.
Yes.
Yeah, where you coordinate programs, conferences, and educational initiatives for them. Yeah. And then it says you also manage event registrations, oversees their website, social media, to really engage their audience and drive successful marketing campaigns. So that's a really exciting thing too, especially with your marketing degree, right? So psychology of consumer and marketing all like in one job.
Right. And then like having that business management background helps to
super helpful. Oh, I love all of this. Okay. And so it says you are pursuing a master's degree to focus on market research and consumer behavior in the future.
Yes. So that's my next step, is planning on doing that.
Love it. Yeah.
Yes.
I picked a master's degree too. Don't tell anyone.
Oh, okay. We'll keep it on the hush.
Everyone's gonna know now.
Right? I know.
Now I'm accountable. I said it on the podcast.
It's out now.
Perfect. So that will deepen your expertise just in your current field, but like how do we have more innovative strategies, right? Because the market's kind of wild. So what's your plan with that?
So my plan right now is get that experience in, because like in my current role, I'm analyzing our social media performance and seeing like, okay, we have these different platforms. We have LinkedIn, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, and it's seeing how our consumers interacting with what we put out, and are we getting a high response and things like that. And I feel like by getting the job experience first, that will help me with my master's degree. So like for whatever projects, I can apply my experience to those projects as well. And to just also make sure I have the experience to really know, like, okay, yeah, I really want to pursue a master's in this.
Yay. Oh my gosh, so good. I love that. Okay, so first of all, let me welcome you to the Young Athena podcast. It is truly an honor to have you here.
Thank you.
Think we have, I'm thinking back to like 2022. So you did Young Athena in 2022. And then I had to have done a couple of student leadership presentations after that. So I'm like, I feel like we know each other, but we like don't know each other. But I feel like
it's been a minute, kind of. Yeah.
100%. Okay.
Yeah.
So definitely an honor to have you back, and like so excited to hear where you are now and all of the things. So
thanks for having me.
Yes. And okay, so I love what you're saying though. So I was just going to tell you that I ran restaurants. So part of my undergrad originally was entrepreneurship with a minor in, I had a minor in accounting at first. I kind of skipped that because I don't have accounting behaviors. And then I went into marketing. I did subsequent after that, I did HR, but it was small business management and entrepreneurship. But I was running a restaurant at the time. Wow. And I will tell you, I used so many of my school projects at that time in my education was truly just case studies from the job that I was in. And there's no better way to apply that. So like I got an A on a marketing strategy. I just wrote the marketing strategy for the restaurant I was already running. And so I was like, you just do the thing. Yeah. So I have no doubt that you'll be completely successful in that. So
thank you.
There's lots. That real world experience is so like I'm a fan of education, right? You know, like my mom has a PhD, we support lots of doctoral students. But I am like a tangible doer kind of a person where I've always said I would rather do 100 hours of clinicals than write a 100-page paper. So I feel like it really helped me kind of advance in that level of education when I could actually apply it in a really matter-of-fact way. So it'll be exciting. If you need me, call me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, Kelly.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. So let's dig into, I want to talk a little bit about your experience with Young Athena, because that's really where our connection is rooted. And obviously the foundation of the podcast is. So I want to talk about, so the first part of Young Athena is always live authentically. And that's where we really kind of do the core value discovery. I know when you were part of what was formerly LIA, we did core values workshops with them as well. So let's talk a little bit about what your core values are and then like how you kind of feel that those integrate into where you're at in your life and leadership.
Okay. Yes. So starting in Young Athena, I was, sometimes you have an awareness of like what you believe in, but actually doing the groundwork and not doing what you think it should be, but what you actually, display and whatnot. So after like looking at all of the lists and narrowing it down, I said that my top three are spirituality, family, and helping others. And so with spirituality, that's something that's very huge for me because every day I like to connect with God and have him be the leader in my life because I believe he's the one that orders my steps. And so he helps me to step out of my comfort zone. And so that's why spirituality is my number one. And then family is another important one for me because I absolutely love my family and I believe family is the foundation of who you become as a person, right? The values that they pour into you as you're a child and you're growing up. And so, and then they also inspire you just based on how they served you. And now it's like you want to give back to them in the future. And then helping others is another valuable core value of mine just because I believe that we're all going through life together. And so I feel like we need to help each other out, whether it's a word of encouragement or an act of service. I think that we need to just push each other to be the best versions of ourselves because everyone's going through something.
So true. Yeah. So my core value is similar to helping others, but it's heart. And so I have a heart for helping people, but just because I'm so heart-centered that because I lead my life with my heart, I can't help but want to like love on people and help people.
Yeah.
So
good.
No, I love that. So talking about core value being family, is that just immediate family for you? Or do you kind of like bring people in? Like when you were at school, did you have a school family? Do you have a church family? What does that look like for you?
Yeah. So first it starts with the immediate family. And then also my external family. I just love spending time with them and just hearing their life stories on what their background was into where they are today. And then also just having like that friend group family, right? Because I believe that you can have a friend that's like a sister or a friend that's like a brother. And so just spending time with people, it's just we influence each other. So it's like, let's rub that energy off. You know what I mean? If it's positive, let's do that. Yeah.
Why not?
Why not? Why not?
Why not?
Give me some of that. Right. Give me some of that.
Yeah, it's so funny. I love it. And I do so much connection like during the day at work that sometimes now I'm like, oh, I need to be quiet. Yeah. So I'll get home and I'm like, I've been pouring all day, so I need to like refill. Yeah.
Refill. Yeah. You always got to pour your cup back. So.
Yep. 100%. Okay. I love that. So in Young Athena, what was the principle that made the greatest impact on you from your learning then?
Yeah, so I'm honestly gonna say it was live authentically. Just because I would say in high school, I was not living authentically. High school, as sure many are, you're trying to figure yourself out, right? You're comparing yourself to other people. You're trying to figure out where you fit in and things like that. And so in high school, I was always afraid to do something or try something new just because I was like, oh, I don't know, what if I stand out? What if people look at me because I do things differently, I speak differently or whatever. And so freshman year of college, I thought, okay, this is a new slate, right? Nobody at GCU knows me. So I want to, try and push myself to do things that are uncomfortable. And Young Athena was one of those things because I was like, I know it's like a leadership program for young women. But I said, I want to do it just because I'm tired of living in this shadow. I'm tired of always wanting to hide away from the things. And then after hearing about living authentically and how, only you can be you, like nobody can live this life for me but me.
Yeah.
So I was like, so that really made an impact on me of, I'm who God created to I am who God created me to be, and that he did not make a mistake when he created anybody. So it's like the best thing I can do is be myself and use the gifts and the talents and whatever that I have to make an impact on others. And also just for other people to live authentically also inspires me too. So,
Gorgeous.
yeah.
Love it. What do you think held you back before? Was it just, were these like kids you've grown up with forever? Like, kind of walk me through that.
Yeah. So I think what held me back is, I would say just kids just
Yeah.
picking on you, you know what I mean? Because of
Yeah.
the way how you look.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'll hear comments like, "Oh, you're so skinny. Do you even eat?" And those kind of things, like hearing that constantly, sometimes made me feel very insecure about myself. That I would just rather stay in the house and not want to put myself out there and hang out with anyone. Um, and I feel like
Yeah.
that started in eighth grade, where people would just want to say nasty things about you, and it was my fault for believing and those
Yeah.
lies of like, oh, you're not good enough or things like that. And so I think that's what held me back. And then also just I would say fear of rejection,
Yeah.
right? Because everybody, I want to feel accepted. And but now that I know that with living authentically, I know that I don't have to prove anything to anyone when it
Yes.
comes to being myself,
Yes.
yeah, so
Nothing to prove.
nothing to
Yeah.
prove. Yeah.
Yeah. This is something that I really feel, and I push this. We have a Young Athena High School program also.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is something that I typically teach is like the unsolicited body comments thing. Because I think we're in such a compare society right now that it's like you can't help but naturally compare yourself to others, right? But that is a
Right.
recipe for disaster, right?
It
And then when
is.
people start
Yeah.
making unsolicited body comments or unsolicited looks comments or unsolicited clothes
Mm-hmm.
comments, right? Then you get into that where it's like peaking insecurity at a time where young women are really foundationally trying to figure out who the heck they are.
Yes.
So yeah. So like even in my house, that's a house rule. We don't do unsolicited body comments here. I don't want to hear it out your
Mm-hmm.
mouth. Like we're going to we're going to have an
That's
issue.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because there's no,
That's so
unless
good.
I walk up to you and say, "Do you like my outfit?" then you have the opportunity to speak your truth, right? Like whether good,
Right.
bad, and different. But if I'm not
Mm-hmm.
asking, don't say anything.
Don't say anything.
So yeah, it's been really hard because even um like my girls sometimes, like people will be like, I think somebody was walking out here for like to go to school, and I don't even remember who was taking them to school, but they're like, "Oh, do you even have shorts on?" And I'm like, "Oh, we can't even do that, right?" Like, first of
Mm.
all, an 11-year-old girl is not going to go to school without shorts on.
Right. Exactly.
Let's just
First of
start
all.
there.
First of
Yeah.
all.
Second of all, now she's questioning her whole life from that
Yeah.
one comment, right?
And
And
isn't that crazy? It's like
crazy.
it's
Yeah.
just crazy how one comment can take root in your heart and it can just grow into so many different things in other areas of your life where it's like you're just in a
Yeah.
box. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I love that you used college as an opportunity to rewrite that, right? There's a lot of
Yes.
people who just go to college and continue on the same path. And then they
Mm-hmm.
crash into someone like me in a program like Young Athena, and I'm like, oh, we're
And we're
gonna
gonna
dig out these roots.
yeah, let's
Yeah.
get that out of here.
We're
Yeah.
gonna get the weeds out of the garden for
Yes,
sure. And
for
then you're
sure.
gonna bloom. Yeah. No, I
Yes,
love it. Yeah. So that's cool.
yes.
Because I've met with quite a few, I've mentored quite a few young Athenas as well. And a lot of them get really rooted in like that, how it's always been, and this is who I was in high school. And it's like, no, you're grown now. Like you're grown. Now it's choice, right? You're not forced
Yeah.
to be with any of these kids. You're not forced in this degree program. Like all of this is now choice. And you are now
Yes.
empowered. So how do you move from that fixed state to that empowered state? So super
Yes.
proud of you for that. Super
Thank
proud of
you.
you. Yeah.
Thank you so
Yeah, and you
much.
did a lot with it. Like look at all the things you did, right?
Yes. Right,
You
because
went
I would
from
have
not wanting to
never.
be seen to like being
Right.
seen in everything. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the mind blowing thing, because I sometimes think about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, if current me were to visit my past self in high school, like I wouldn't recognize myself. I'd be like, girl, who are you? I would not know. So it's like it's truly a blessing to have that growth and things like that.
Oh, so good.
Hmm.
Okay, so like now, well, let's say back at GCU, you had a lot of leadership roles, right? Even
Hmm.
after. So you did Young Athena in 2022, and then you had this whole year of leadership in 23 and part of 24, right? Because you were a
Right.
student leader in 24 also.
Yes.
Okay, so talk to me about how that influenced your leadership roles as you kind of
Hmm.
evolved from that.
Okay. So I know like I'll first say, before I started the leadership roles, I was at first hesitant,
Mm-hmm.
because it goes back to like sometimes the past wants to creep up on you, and it's like, are you really cut out for this? Do you know how to really communicate with other the people that you're involved with? And so I went back into, again, going back to living authentically and core values, and I'm like, everybody is such a beautiful soul, that we have so much that we can contribute. And so just meditating on that helped me to like say like, okay, I'm gonna go forward and pursue leadership. And then again, leadership also helped me to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because like I said, in high school, it's just something I would never imagine doing. And so with having those core values and just living authentically and being myself, I didn't realize how much of an impact that would have on others, just because um one of my teammates on the leadership team, she told me, she's like, oh my gosh, like she wrote me a letter, and I was not expecting this. She wrote me a letter. She said, thank you so much for what you pour out into us, right? Because sometimes you think that what you do is not significant, like even if it's just simple as a words of encouragement, and but no, like to hear her say how thankful she was, and I didn't even think anything. I was like, I'm just doing my thing. But anyways, long story short, it really did touch me that I at least impacted one person in a profound way. And I'm sure other people have, maybe thought the same but haven't like reached out to me, and that's totally fine. But yeah, just living authentically, having those core values, it helps you to have a positive influence on others.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, it offers permission, right?
Permission. Hmm.
Yeah, because if I am living true to who I am and unapologetically like being me and doing me and thriving in me, then
Hmm.
others are like, wait a minute, like she's just her, and there's no like
Yes.
garbage, there's no fake, there's no, right? And we all have our struggles. That's not to say that we don't have
Right.
struggles, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, there's a level of vulnerability of like,
Hmm.
oh, I can be vulnerable here and be like, yeah, I'm having a crap day. Right?
Right.
Right?
And if I could just add to that, that's
Yeah.
one of the things that I really loved about Young Athena, is that it created that safe space of
Mm-hmm.
being vulnerable. And like I know sometimes we shed tears in the
Mm-hmm.
program, and it was just really nice to say like, okay, I can be real. I don't have to have the mask on.
Yeah.
I can,
100%.
express whatever it is that I'm struggling with. And then there's other ladies in the room that are dealing with similar things as you, and you're like, man, I'm not alone
Mm-hmm.
in this.
Yeah, you feel held and
Mm-hmm.
seen and
And see.
heard. Yeah. So
Yes.
there's a lot of power in that. That's one of the biggest things I think where a lot of positive youth development programs want to teach you skills, but don't necessarily teach that, like, first of all, it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to talk about not being okay.
Yeah, for sure.
But then also look at everyone else who's also not okay.
Yeah.
Like, girl, you're good.
You're good. It's like, it's not only me. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then the rule too in Young Athena of, like, it doesn't matter whether you did your homework or not. Just show up for yourself. That's it.
Yeah.
It, like, doesn't even matter. I'm not going to be upset. There's no fighting. Like, it's not a thing. Like, this is not a grade. This is nothing. This is you showing up for you consistently and learning and valuing yourself enough to be here. Yeah. So I think there's so many pieces of that are powerful. Yes. I have lots of letters, but also now there's over 220 girls who've gone through Young Athena now.
Yes.
And so I have lots of those. I call them my love letters, but heart is my core value, from women just being like, thank you for just being you. And I'm like, I just said, I don't know how not to be me.
Right.
Yeah. I'm like, this is something, but it took me a long time to get here, right? I too am a recovering perfectionist, right? I too was a people pleaser for a good portion of my life. I too carried around the insecurity suitcases of, like, what my body looks like and who I am. And then, but then I knew when I became a mom, I was like, ooh, I'm not passing these suitcases on to my kids.
No.
That's not a thing. Like, I want them to be proud of who they are, exactly as they are, whether you play sports, whether you don't play sports, whether you have a job, whether you, like, right? Like, I don't care. Your job is to find your utmost joy. That's your job. Yeah.
That's
whatever
so
that looks like. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah. And then you interlace faith in that for you. And it's like, right? When you're like, I am magically made. God put me here to do whatever work he wants me to do, and voila, right?
Voila, yeah.
Nothing else matters. What else could matter?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So good.
So powerful. So powerful. So let's talk about your leadership roles too. Now that I know that there's, like, one of those letters, but what are also some of the other, like, rewarding aspects that you've had in, like, serving others or in leadership, or, like, creating even meaning in the programs or events that you put together? Like, how has that lens changed?
Yeah, so so I'll go with first talking about my role as being chapter president of NSCS, the National Society of Collegiate Scholars. So that was rewarding in that I was able to share the things that helped me as a student and share that on with other people. Because it's better to give than to receive. And so, like, just giving them the resources of saying, like, hey, this program has this scholarship, and showing them the passion for growth. Because I said, like, I was encouraging them. I said, and there are leadership positions here too, where you can push yourself and grow in leadership skills, communication skills, and things like that. And some of them were very interested. And I think by showing my enthusiasm and my passion for growth, I think that also bled on, or wait, I don't know if that's the right verbiage.
It's okay. I know what you meant. Yeah.
If it, like,
filtered over.
It filtered over. And I will say this, one of my teammates on the NSCS leadership team, she was nervous, right, to do a speech. And this was for our induction ceremony, right? And I was that same person who was in high school, again, that never ever wanted to do anything. But because, again, with living authentically, and I finally was able to start finding my voice, I wanted to encourage her to do the same. I said, look, you got this. Your voice is powerful. It makes an impact. And I was very proud of her when she agreed to doing the speech. And even though she was nervous, she was able to do something out of her comfort zone, right? And if I'm able to help other people do things that are uncomfortable, I want to keep doing that, because I know what it's like to just want to feel like you just want to stay in the safe zone.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
You like being a hype girl too, huh?
Yeah, I like being a hype girl. Like, you got this.
Yeah. 100. That's like my favorite job. If I can
Yeah.
get paid to be a hype girl, you just like pop me out on your phone. I'm gonna be like, yep, I'm here. You got this.
Yes, you
Yeah.
got this. Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
That's so,
Hmm.
if only I could create I should. There's gotta
You
be a hype girl
should.
business somewhere.
You should.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah. Like
great.
post your struggle. I will
And
write you back. Yeah.
yeah, or
Uh-huh.
like you could have a little Instagram live and people are like typing in their struggle and like, okay,
Yeah.
someone 777 whatever
Yeah.
Maxi, you got
Yeah.
this girl. I don't
You
know.
got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So good. I love this. Okay, so I love this because I think you're leaning into like the safe space thing, right? Like you're just
Mm,
empowering others to live authentically or lean into their areas where they may not feel so confident, right? We all
mm,
naturally have those insecurities that creep up,
right.
especially being in the public eye, right? There's so many women. And obviously, I don't know the ethnicity of this person you're working with either, but even just looking at different ethnicities and how that, like, the vulnerability to be seen fully can be
Mm,
super scary. So not only are
yeah.
you a woman, not only are you like a different ethnicity, right? There's all of these factors that play into like rooting that insecurity where you're just like, I'm never speaking in front of people, right?
You're right. Yeah.
But there she went, right? Like I love this. Um, so what I want to talk about is creating safe spaces, right? Because you
Mm,
have even brought up that Young Athena was a safe space. So are you able now to kind of translate that into whether it was at JCU or at your current place of business? Like how do you kind of ensure that when you're doing events or when you're like working with your guys' population, how do you create a safe space?
yeah. So for me, so I'll give an example. So when I was director of the Integrity, Faith, and Character Task Force, we had a group of us, and we're here. We were. I want to say we were almost like the guinea pigs of the group because this was something new, right? And so as a leader, I did not have anything to really like base like the program off of like some of what someone did in the past, right? So it's like
Mm-hmm.
everything was brand new. And so I was like, I just wanted to make sure that everyone in my group that they felt heard because I I had that experience of when you're like the quiet one in the group, but then no one really reaches out to ask you like, well, what do you think? Right. And so
Mm-hmm.
whenever I noticed that there were some people who were more talkative than others, and then there were some who were more quiet, sometimes I wanted to take a pause and say, um, all right, well, thank you all for sharing. And then I'll say, are there any more thoughts? And then if no one speaks up, then I'll be like, hey, well, what do you think about this? And then they were able to share because now I was able to kind of settle the noise, if that's the
Mm-hmm.
right way, settle the noise a little bit. So that way that person can also share their input because I want everyone to feel like they can contribute something and it doesn't matter um if like and I said don't think that your idea is bad or good. Like all ideas are good, right? Because it's something that's unique, it's something that only you could think of. And so I'm open, and so that's I wanted to create an open space for sharing ideas and how we can do this. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think Athena speaks to that, right? A spirit, with a spirit of inclusivity,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I think that's really important too. And like understanding with the level of responsibility as we elevate to like bring others with us, right? Now that you're
Yes.
an Athena and you're part of this, that's something we talk about being like conscious of is just going, okay, like I didn't get here by myself, right? There's
Right.
a lot of
Yeah.
influential women or people who kind of helped frame me in this space and like push me forward to be better. So yeah,
Exactly.
that's so powerful. So we're gonna move on to some of the questions about Black History Month because I love
Mm-hmm.
this topic so much. I've just have so many remarkable women in my life that I've learned so much from just like about Black history, right? Because I think as well, first of all, as a child in modern day American schools, it's like something you learn about for 10 minutes and it's never really the richness that truly is historically Black history, right? Like there's so many pieces that I feel like just get shoveled off to the side as though it's unimportant. Although it's incredibly important because there's so many powerful figures, people, women who've existed in the world. And I feel like those stories get overshadowed by nonsense, right? Political nonsense or whatever, even holiday nonsense, right? Like it's like all of a sudden we're pushed through this gamut of Christmas and it's like we miss so many things. So yeah, so can you share a like specific moment or a specific figure in Black history that has like profoundly shaped your outlook on leadership or service? Like what does that look like for you?
Yeah, so I would say a specific leader that has definitely shaped me is, of course, I know MLK. I'm going to say Martin Luther King,
Go
just
for it.
because going back to the whole feeling, the inclusivity thing, right? I love how he brought two groups of people together and to make it to one thing, because I at the end of the day, I believe we're all human beings, right? We all have a soul, we have a spirit, and we have a body, right? And so it doesn't matter the color of your skin on that, like that should not limit you from having great relationships with people from another race. It should not limit you from the level of education that you can obtain. And one thing that Martin had was he had a voice, and his voice was powerful, and his voice changed lives. And of course, it took progress, but we still talk about him to this day because of the voice that he shared. So no matter your ethnicity, if you're Black, if you're white or whatever, use the voice that God has given you to make a change, especially if it's something that is important to you and you feel like you need to speak up on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Preach. Right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, preach. This is so good. Yeah, and it's so funny because even growing up, I don't know, like I think I had an awareness, right, of different ethnicities in my school population. But I don't think I had a conscious understanding of like segregation or racism or any of that, because I've always led my life with my heart. And it wasn't until I was older and then people started like, like kind of they get in high school or junior high and then that like mess talking kind of starts and you're like, what is happening? Like, who cares?
Right.
And even to date, like I've never had, I don't have that that instinct in me. Like I'm never going to be one that judges people by the color of their skin or even like socioeconomic. Like there's so many people who judge on like, oh, they're the poor family, they're the rich family, like all of that kind of like meh. I just have never been one to participate there.
That's great. That's
well, I know. I'm like,
yeah,
it is,
great.
but then I feel like people think I live under a rock also, right? Like they're
no.
like, oh, well, it really does exist. And I'm like, oh, I'm not saying it not exists. I've just never participated from that lens. So I truly don't understand how a person can talk about another person that way, right? And so that's super hard. Yeah, so even like when we look at when COVID happened and then like Black Lives Matter happened and everyone was like in upheaval, and I'm like, this is literally society fighting for a voice right now. That's all that's happening, right? Like everyone's looking for, I felt like I was the only one saying COVID leveled all of us back as humans, right? Like it was like, oh my gosh, we all are in a place where we are being tied back to our humanity. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter. Like literally, everyone was going back to like, oh, I can actually die. Okay, right? Like that was the sense of like, oh, okay, I need to pay attention to this because like this is life and death on the line. And so then when all of a sudden we had a bunch of civil unrest, I'm like, of course we did, because now we're all leveled back in humanity. And so now we're like looking at all the civil unrest that we've been ignoring for all of this time, and everyone's sitting around with nothing better to do.
Nothing better to do, right? And so, I feel like during that moment, it was definitely just another good wake up call of like things that have been swept under the rug, right? And giving the the opportunity of voice on like and Black people speaking out on just things that no one has really paid attention to. And
Right.
so even though that was a very hard and very emotional thing to go through during COVID, I'm thankful that what even though it was very unfortunate, I'm thankful that there was some recognition
Yeah.
of things that we can all work on as humanity, right? And that's just
Yeah.
loving thy neighbor, loving
Right.
a fellow human being
Right.
who has flesh and blood just like you,
Right.
you know?
100%. No, I
Yeah.
know. I always cry over topics like this because
Yeah.
I do not understand. I'm not a hate person. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's not a single ant on this planet. Like I'm the one who catches spiders and puts them back outside. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
like, so I always get in these spaces and I'm like, what? How can you hate
Yeah.
someone you don't even know? Like I'm just not
Right.
the one. I'm not the one. And I also feel like I can't ever speak to it because I've also never received that experience, right? Like I've
Mm-hmm.
never firsthand received racism and I've never firsthand been segregated, right? And so then on one hand I'm like, oh, love everyone, and on the other hand I'm like, oh, but there's a lot of trauma and like generational trauma here that we have
Mm-hmm.
to pay attention to. We have to honor it. We can't continue to play in modern day America like it didn't happen, like it didn't
Right.
exist, because all it's
Exactly.
doing is muting the experience. And that's not fair either. Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
one thing to be ashamed of the choices you made, but then also it's another to be like, oh my gosh, I'm ashamed of these choices and let me apologize, right? And
Right.
there's just a lot of placating. Oh, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's in the past. But I'm like, no, there's
Yeah.
generational trauma is real. And
Mm-hmm.
like there's a millions of children in the world who are still bearing that burden. And like, what are
Yeah.
we doing about it? Ugh.
Exactly. It's like,
Yeah.
don't just know about it, do something
Be
about
about
it.
it.
Be about it,
Yes.
right? Because it's easy to say, like, oh, I support this, but then there's no action behind your words. And
100%.
so, yeah, so, like, and
Yeah.
like you said, with like the whole generational trauma thing, I mean, people are dealing with things that their parents went through and their parents passed that on to their kids.
Yeah.
And so it's like, when that one person in that generation has a wake up call, then that person, I encourage you to just stand up and be the
Mm-hmm.
voice of that generation to break that generational trauma, so that way um those after you can look at life through a different lens
Yeah.
and a
No.
different perspective, and a perspective that comes from a place of love and, like you said, heart.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, it's the only way we're ever going to change anything, right? And that's one of the
Yeah.
things that have always said about my kids is that I'm going to raise amazing, wonderful, love beings, and they're going to
Mm-hmm.
be like loving, and so it's super funny because I'm like the fun mom, but I love
Yeah.
looking at like my kids' friends group, right? And so my
Mm-hmm.
daughter also plays volleyball, and so like we talk about on her team, there's like Black women on her team, and there's Hispanic women on her team, and there's white women on her team, and right, they divide that up equally, and they're all friends, and there's camaraderie. And I'm like,
Yes.
there really is a bright future if we can empower our kids to make their own decisions, because the
Yeah.
newer generations are even more open about like, they're all about their feelings. Like
Yeah.
kids, they are so rooted in their feelings and truth. And like, I've never been so called out by a young child. My son is 6 years old, and if I like say something spicy, he's literally
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, what you just said kind of made me feel bad. Are you mad at
Mm.
me? And I'm like, listen, take that skill everywhere you go.
And that's so good.
Right?
That's so
Unapologetic to
good.
have the conversation. But I
Yeah.
feel like there's even like I was gonna say, like I have a really good friend of mine who is Hispanic, and she's like,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of things she won't say at her job
Mm.
because she was programmed from her mom losing jobs for speaking up. Now she's like, oh well, I'll just play it safe. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. That's not
Right.
safe for you. Like, I
Yeah.
want you to you deserve to speak your truth, right? But again,
Right.
generations of passing that on, just like you were just saying. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I have a beautiful friend who's a wonderful, amazing Black woman. I always invite her to the leadership panels. I'm not sure if she was at yours. Her name's Martina. So shout out to Martina if you need to follow her on Insta. She's
Shout
at
out.
Sunflower Curls, but just a remarkable person who is also found her voice, unapologetic, wildly successful, and I am a fan. I am such a fan. Like,
That's
just like
good.
I look at it and I'm like, I am here for all of it. What do you want me to share? Do you want me to send you referrals? Yeah. Because I just love it. I love sitting back and being like, yes, do you love it, live it, perfect, imperfect. I don't even care. I will hype girl you all day.
Yes, do
Yeah. you?
Do
Exactly.
you?
Exactly.
Yes, that's good.
So talk to me a little bit. So as a Black woman, how do you feel your identity has influenced the way you lead, inspire, serve, and all of the various roles you've had?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, just a little quick background. So, I grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood, right? And so, being Black, sometimes I noticed it, and I'm like, man, I feel like the odd one out, right? I feel sometimes like there's there's no one like that can relate to my similar experience. And so again, it sometimes that also caused me to just want to play it safe in the background, right?
Yeah.
Not thinking that I could use my voice when that's not true. Because again, going back to living authentically, I realized that I can be a representation for those in the Black community that also may have had those similar thoughts. And so it was truly a blessing to have those leadership experiences and to show not just the Black community, but also women that you can go out there, you can have a positive impact on other people by just showing up, using your voice, and being you at the end of the day. And so hopefully, I was able to inspire some people to go after and do the same thing.
Yeah. That's super powerful. Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you for that.
Yeah,
I
of
love
course.
it. It's like so I just feel like and I call you all my young Athenas. Like there's not a couple other facilitators or in the program. But I'm always like, my young Athenas are gonna
And-
change the world. And everyone's like, oh, they're just yours? And I'm like, yeah, pretty much.
yeah, pretty much mine.
I claim all of them. Okay, bye. Yeah, no, and it's so true, right? So it's so good. That's why I think the high school program is going to be so revolutionary too, is truthfully giving them an opportunity to look at their lives through the values. Like even my daughter and her two best friends went through last summer, and I parent her differently after that. Like I'm aware, and I think that they're better friends to each other because there was a lot of like unsolicited body comments before in their relationship. There was a lot of like teasing each other before unnecessarily, and I was like, no, that's not a thing because it
Yeah,
just roots insecurity in each other. Like you need to
it
be each other's
does.
biggest fans, and so
Yeah,
I've even watched that dynamic shift a little. So
and
I'm
that's
like, we
good.
really are going to change the world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we are, and I think high school is such a great starting point because I think that's when as we're growing up in high school, like that's when it's like your mind awakens and you're like noticing all the different changes about your body and like you start comparing yourself to people. So I think that's a really good starting
Yeah.
point.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, what legacy would you hope to leave behind as a Black woman, as a leader, and as a servant to your communities?
That's a big golden question.
Yeah, it is.
It is. Um, so as a Black woman leader, the legacy that I want to leave behind is I want all of the Black women and even just the young ladies, the girls who will be coming after me in the future, is I want them to learn that they can be themselves without having to feel any attachment of shame because you are not what society claims you to be. You are
Mhm.
who God made you to be. You don't need to fall into a box to act a certain way or be a certain way or stay in uh a certain um like a box, or yeah, pretty much staying in this box of thinking that you can only be with society. No, you can go up and you can be so much by just being you and sharing your story. Um and it could even go down as simple as how you wear your hair,
Mhm.
how you carry yourself as a woman, and just using the talents and gifts. Don't be afraid to let the world see all the hidden gems that you have on the inside, because at the end of the day, that treasure chest is meant to be open. And so don't keep the gems hidden on the inside. Just push yourself, and the sky is the limit. There's nothing that can stop you. There's nothing that is impossible for you, as long as you go out there and be you and do you. Okay, don't hold back.
Yeah.
That's my, yeah.
Oh, so good. I know. You're so right. I'm like, let me snap for that. You know how I am about snaps.
Stop.
Go do you. Go
Go
be
do
you.
be
Whatever
you.
that looks like.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
All of it. Yes. It's
Hmm.
100%. Okay. So, um, I want to talk about like kind of what's next for you. I know
Hmm.
that you have like we had talked briefly about your master's degree, but like where do you see yourself going after this? Or have you thought about it?
Yeah, so honestly, I'm taking one day at a time, but my plan is yes, I do want to pursue my master's in like consumer behavior and marketing. Just because I think it's very interesting how the human mind works and the process that we go through when it comes to um purchasing different services or different products and things like that. And then once I get my master's, I plan to, of course, use that degree in the next, whatever that career is, the next level, maybe in a position doing that. And then also, I want to also um, be even more involved in a church community, just because I want to inspire, you know, younger, like my generation. I want to inspire my generation um to go after the things that God has set out for them.
Mhm.
Um just because I know sometimes it's so easy to get caught up in the wrong groups and having not such great influences. So I want to be a positive influence
Yeah.
for those in my community around my age, so that way they can live their life with purpose, and knowing that even though that I know sometimes people may say, "Oh, you're just a youngin," but no, youngins can make an impact too,
Yes, they
right?
can,
And
girl.
and it,
Yes, they
it's
can. Yeah.
yes. So I want to just inspire my generation, and then even those who are Gen Alpha, because I'm Gen Z. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, that's so powerful. Yeah, it's that give back philosophy, right? It's like
Hmm.
now that I've gotten here and now that I've treaded the water and walked the walk and had to talk the talk and had to fail the failures and had the
Yeah.
successes too, like, right? Like, how do you inspire others to like do the same right behind you? So
Hmm.
I love that. Yeah. Are you involved in your church now?
No, so
Okay.
as I was transitioning from college into like my current role, I just needed to get grounded. I needed time for myself to get grounded, because
Mm-hmm.
that was just a big transition and like just
Yeah.
figuring out the working world. But that's my plan for this year though. That's my
Oh, I
plan for
love
this
it.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so powerful. Yeah. I
Yeah.
love well, I just have a heart for church communities anyway. We've supported like quite a few from a business perspective for a while, but there's something really magical about being in the faith space together,
Mhm.
and when you all have similar faiths and all of that. So I have no doubt that you're going to move big mountains in that community. So yeah, and I think there's a willingness in most, I would say, church bodies, there's a willingness to be vulnerable because we all come to church with a sense of like,
Mm.
I'm here because I've had a rough week and I need to get filled,
Right,
right? And it's
right, yes.
like that cup has to get filled up somewhere.
Amen,
Yeah, so
yeah.
there's a level where like that spirit piece is super powerful for
Yes,
people to get their cup filled.
yes,
So but then
exactly.
give back fills your cup too, right? Like
It
I
does.
love giving back. I know people are like, how do you have time to do anything? And I'm like, sometimes I don't. And sometimes I take back-to-back calls and it'll be like Young Athena or mentoring calls that I'm just taking over and over and over again. And it's like, will you do that for free? And I'm like, yeah, because that give back is important to me. Like I
Yes.
love that all of my Young Athenas know that if crap hits the fan and you like book 45 minutes on my calendar through my website that's available to all of you, that I will be there to hype you up or sort it out or look at something differently, right? Just that lens
Yeah.
of making sure that everyone's taken care of, because it's so, I don't know, that give back piece is so important to me. So
And it is. It
yeah.
is.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, for the sake of time, I am going to wrap us up there. Thank you again so much for being such a beautiful part of my Young Athena experience, and just being on and being willing to tell your story on our podcast to inspire other Young Athenas. It's really important that even though we're all like now spread abroad as all of you graduate and kind of move on and like start your own careers, I love that we're able to create this resource for people to come back to reconnect to their core values and all of that. So thank you so much
Yes.
for being here.
And thank you so much for having me. It was